It's also very nice that it's a Zoom and then it's in person, so we can get more folks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. People who would be reluctant to come in person.
I was mentioning earlier that I've been attending pretty much virtual town hall meetings. I did over 100 of them for different communities.
Okay.
It's all about a fireworks enforcement plan and all of that. So, and we did all via Zoom. So it's very interesting. We were able to get our message out to a lot of
I
people.
just want to say, Kennedy.
Well, we certainly appreciate it. We know you guys are busy, and especially this time of year. Do you have like on-call stuff, like if you're off, something happens, or do you
Yeah,
have a
so
rotating-
for arson investigations and fire investigations, we have folks that work 20 hours a day on shifts. And then I'm always on call. So I normally work in the days, Monday through Friday, and then I'm on call on the evening. So I'll respond to fire.
Yeah.
And then we have folks that work on the weekends, do different inspections and events and all that.
Yeah. Cool.
There you go. We weren't sure how many folks would be here tonight, so we only brought.
Yeah, it's hard to gauge. It's not something we would want people to RSVP for, but
Sure.
if we thought we were going to get like 200 people,
We do these monthly, or what's the?
When was the last time we did one?
Okay. Sure.
So once every so many years.
Absolutely.
Not an evacuation.
Since I'm part of this gang. Okay, not over the top. I mean, we just support
Absolutely.
These are not cops? No, they're rovers. They're an echo. Oh. Yeah. The more you wear them, the more.
Now, are you guys sworn peace officers too?
Yes.
Both?
So so we're all sworn, and then I also just carry a firearm and respond. And
Sure.
I have this.
Yeah, I was
Our arson investigators, they also do the arrest and apprehension of the folks that do
Right.
arson. So
yeah, I remembered from my time over in Stagny that there were
yes.
groups that had.
So we're sworn police officers. We're not our folks aren't necessarily sworn firefighters, but they're police officers under PCA 32.
Yeah.
So they have they have the authority to do citations and all that stuff.
Right. Now, can you guys do arrests?
Yes. So our arson investigators, they do full arrest powers along with myself.
Mhm.
So, and then our FPOs like Jessica, they our inspectors, they're police officers, but they don't carry firearms. They don't actually they citations.
Okay, that makes sense.
So they're.
Yeah, cool. I just think it's an interesting thing. I'm from the Seattle area, and we never had anything like that.
Oh,
I mean, they're actually, that's not true.
Great letter. I'm thinking of
For,
hanging it up.
county fire marshals, they were sworn, but the cities didn't have that. It's like a weird thing in the code that enabled county fire marshal to make arrests.
Okay.
But the cities did not. They would have investigators, but they would not be. They would refer their findings to the county fire marshal or the police.
So how we're broken up is we have 37 in our myself in our division. 20 of them are inspectors, so they have their police officers under that, and then I have 6 fire investigators not including myself, so 7 that have full rest powers and toilet power. So
Nice. And then are you the direct supervisor for the fire prevention?
yeah, so I supervise the entire division.
Great, cool.
But it's where I don't have
There you.
it's nice, right?
Perfect ball.
I have some, yeah.
Oh,
You like
okay.
them?
No, I wasn't sure if you were that legal. I thought maybe I put a few over there, but it sounds, looks like you probably need to hang out on the fan now.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
If you see somebody stand up. feel free.
Okay, all right.
Find yourself a seat up there.
Of course, when you start too, you can always say there's some index cards over there, there's some pens. But of course, people are
See,
gonna
here,
think of the
also, here, I got
questions as they're sitting there.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Since we're here already.
I'll come back to you, 'cause
Okay.
I'll probably be on the control.
Sounds good.
Recording.
Yeah, now I'm like, did I not bring enough? Everything's grabbing one thing.
That's okay. So, good to have. I haven't looked to see how much supplies do we have left over.
I mean,
still
we have a lot, but when inside the storage room that you told me to go to, there
Yeah.
wasn't anything in there.
Well, I thought that we had pamphlets on the bookshelf.
It's all envelopes.
Oh.
I think that maybe Belinda or whoever was maybe organizing moved everything into the
Downstairs basement.
no, they moved it to the regular storage room with the hats because it looks more full with pamphlets now.
Well, maybe, yeah.
But we're just like, we have like a little bit of everything, but it's not like enough. You know what I mean? Like this was all we had of this one. Yeah. I don't know. We had a lot of FEMA stuff like that and that. 'Cause I think we just got these things. But yeah.
So I'm gonna be on vacation from Saturday.
Okay.
I'll be in Hawaii.
Oh, nice.
So Maya just did a COVID test for the travel today.
Mm.
So I'm at the airport.
Even though governor says stop coming.
I know, but it was just a stop coming. It wasn't a mandate.
I know.
I already booked everything and we already paid for everything.
No, yeah, my boyfriend and his family, they booked a house for $11,000. And they were not going to give them money back, but they bugged them for 3 days. They said, all we're asking is for a credit. We're not asking for money back because like the governor says to not come. We don't know how bad it is there. So I finally said, okay, we'll give you credit. And they're like, dude, we're not gonna not go for $11,000 for the house because there's 13 of them.
Yeah, so I mean, we're wearing masks and we're going to be very careful and all that. But, but we
Yeah.
found this out 6 months ago.
Yeah, because all my friends that came back from Oahu, they said that I think all the restaurants and stuff are back to like outdoor dining only or like takeout only, or like it's really long
Sure.
lines. So just be prepared for
Yeah.
that, I guess. But you'll have fun regardless.
Yeah.
How long have you been the watch commander?
Area.
For sector.
Oh yeah, I stayed there.
The Hawaiian Village.
Mhm. I just don't like the beach there because the sand
Okay.
is really
Yeah, yeah.
rocky. It
Oh, is
hurts
it-
my feet.
is
Like
it-
you have
is
to
it-
go
is it
towards the middle more.
Oh, okay, because we never stayed there before, so.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, no problem.
Just want to make sure. Hey, how's it going?
But yeah, I mean, when you'll know what I mean when you
Yeah.
go there, when you go towards the water, there's a lot of rocks. It hurt my foot really bad. Yeah.
Yeah, we normally, if we go to Walker, we normally stay on the Colina side where the Marriott and
A little closer to the middle.
the Disney Hotel is on the
Ah.
western side.
Yeah.
That's really quiet over
Yeah.
There you go. How are you?
I definitely saw more homeless people.
Yeah, not a problem. Oh, nice to meet you, Aaron Wallis. Nice to meet you.
there. Jason Lee, Fire Marshal, how are you? Jason Lee? Jason? Yep.
Hello, I'm Jessica. Nice to meet you. You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
300, or have you down at HOJ?
I'm at HOJ.
That's right.
Yeah, I used to be at 300.
Yeah.
But then I moved, when I became Fire Marshal 5 years ago, I moved down to HOJ. So, yeah, we have folks at Richmond still.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I see him in the gym all the time.
Oh,
so-
yeah, yeah. Well, Station 14 always goes to the gym too.
Yeah.
So, because I don't know if you ever been to Station 14, their gym is not that great.
All I see is I saw the new gym that they're building down there off of North B.
Yeah.
Or not gym, new gym,
The
new station.
Oh, that's pretty nice. Yeah.
Get up for a place though, man. Oh,
But around it's gonna be interesting. So it's gonna be
I mean, I always feel
nice,
bad.
big, beautiful
Yeah.
station, but
I always feel bad for those guys on I. Is that 13? That's on I?
yeah,
Because they have to park in the parking lot. They don't have any like.
it's
Lots of
not
parking.
close. Yeah, it's not very smart. So, well, just like at HOJ, we don't have. Well, I mean, fire.
Yeah.
We don't have secured parking. So
Yeah.
I have our arts investigators that work on shift. They don't sleep there at HOJ. They sleep over at Station 30, which is in Potomac.
Okay, yeah.
But they work out at HOJ during the daytime. So it's a little interesting.
Yeah, because those guys are 24/7.
Yeah, so we always have somebody on shift, and I'm on call
Yeah.
on the weekends, and then busy day to day with all the fires. It's
No,
morning, and I was over at Roseville Road today. So.
Oh yeah. Dude, we just had an accident right there at that site where the two motorhomes.
Oh yeah.
And it was a two cars. Somebody was pulling out of that tri-stations and somebody was going on
Yeah.
Roseville Road. They T-boned right into each other, pushed everything. The whole accident went off the road right into
Thanks
that
for
burned
coming.
motorhome.
Are you serious?
Welcome.
Oh, that one
Yeah.
on the spot.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm not staying. Well, there's a woman that's walking outside. She's quite, she looks really overheated and lost. I asked her if she was lost and she said no, but my mom had Alzheimer's and she looks very disheveled. So I'm just a little bit worried about it. But she went up my direction and then she came back.
Is she still walking around?
She's still, and she's just belabored. She's got kind of stains on her shirt. Her face is kind of beet red, so it's a little worried that she doesn't want my help, but maybe
Yeah.
she would accept it, right? Anyway,
All right.
so just
Thank
FYI.
you.
It's very black horse with a straight shirt.
Okay. Yeah. So the two cars right into that burned motor.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was laughing and my sergeant called me. He goes, "Hey, dude, remember they had that fire here yesterday with the motorhomes?" My guy's on. Both those cars are in the motor. I'm like, oh my god, that place, that area, man. Oh,
Well, Caltrans is out there. Well, they were out there earlier. They inspected the bridge, and then they're going to take all the all the stuff with it. So they're trying to work on that place for 3 years now.
Oh, gosh.
It's just been a.
Did you go out there yesterday?
It was this morning. It was 1 in the morning. I got out there like at daylight, so about 8 o'clock in the morning. So because I can't do too much when it's on fire.
Oh,
So
yeah. Dude, that if you go, that thing goes so far back there, like it's like a little cave, like.
well, I've been through that area before, but it was interesting because one of our engines, I think it was engine 17, they went up on the vehicle bridge and both sides was fire overlapping. It was the most. I think they had pictures of it too, but it was most the same thing I heard. So.
Yeah, there you go. I like it.
Good turnout.
Yeah. It looks like you have quite a few on that. Well, you have 6.
Did you guys see you have a council member showing up?
He's coming, one of his staffers is here now and he's just coming from another event.
I think I'll just start off with I'm not gonna talk too much.
Okay.
Start off and then-
Nice and simple
Yes.
without questions or answers.
Absolutely. No, yeah, I didn't feel like it.
Cassandra.
But
Cassandra.
you know, I'll talk about.
I got her name.
Yeah.
She's texting.
There are a lot of people.
Guerra's
Yeah,
Guerra's,
Guerra.
right?
Yep, yeah.
There's a couple young people.
Right.
Three.
Yeah, I text with, I send emails with Cassandra all the time.
Which is great.
Councilmember Guerra.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know there's a traffic
Never heard of
issue
her.
here.
Which
Eric Guerra. He's District 6, which is this area, I believe. Yeah.
Oh,
So I think he's coming in at 7.
It's just, I mean, those chuckleheads, they
He's
get
really,
going.
he's really nice.
It's what is it, like 7:30, 8 at night?
Oh, yeah.
on Thursday.
I believe it.
My neighbors
Have a good
blowing you guys.
Yeah, no, I believe it.
I guess I've only heard of the ones in my battalion.
Yes, yes. Who else? Let's see.
Hey, Leslie.
Councilmember Bang, Councilmember Jennings, Shamir is some. he's
Haven't
like
heard
northern,
of-
or he's in
Oh.
Plant Park area.
Oh, okay.
Watch that door. And then you watch,
I'll watch.
you watch the door, and if you see me talking to somebody, you know, Tim, then come over.
You like living South Area Plant Pool?
For in the next couple minutes.
I do.
I'll just watch the door.
It's
Okay.
nice.
I can't. when you see me breathe.
Not as crazy as one, when I
No,
had one
one-
and four, when Julie and I were like
Yeah,
tag teaming.
yeah.
Well, it was more of me
Yeah.
helping her. She didn't really help me.
Yes, sir. I will do that. That's what
Yeah,
that's what I
one
wanted to say.
super busy. It's like.
Yeah, go ahead, Ken, have it.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
wanted it.
Good evening. We're so happy to see so many people here and also the people on Zoom. And I just wanted to just a few remarks before we start. We're going to, for Q&A, I'm going to pass, I'll have some cards. And so if you want to ask a question or whatever, raise your hand and I'll give you a card. And there's some pens over there. So I'll bring those too. And then I'll keep them and I'll be handing them in up here. So rather than interrupting everybody, Councilman Guerra is supposed to be coming. It'll be probably a little bit after 7. We have someone from his office who's here. Cassandra's here from his office. So anyway, so glad you're here. And I think it's going to be a very nice evening. So just wanted to give you a heads up about that. Fire or police, or yeah. Yeah, so, hi, Peter, what? It's on. Oh, okay, well, that was mainly for this people in here anyway. So about the cards, so. I'm not going to be talking much. I'm going to be quiet tonight.
I'm gonna move the microphone back a little bit. And-
Sweater too, so it's like, it's hard for me to talk to you. So
Oh, it looks thick. It looks like police
it is, it's super hot
for winter.
too. It is.
Nancy, is anybody else coming in? Is anybody else coming in? Never mind. It's okay. I was asking if anybody else was coming through the door. I would go ahead and get started. Well, everyone, thank you for being here tonight. We certainly appreciate it. This is a great attendance. We are blessed and very lucky to have members of the Sacramento Police Department and the Sacramento Fire Department here. And I'll introduce them in just a few minutes. And we also have Councilmember Eric Guerra, who's going to be joining us as soon as he gets back from another appointment that he was at this evening. So thank you. And also want to thank Betsy Ledesma for all her help in helping advertise this event, help us get started, and certainly help with Zoom tonight. My name's Peter Lewicki. I've been a resident here for 3 years. I'm a member of the Insurance, Legal, and Safety Committee. Nancy Arndorfer, Bill Olmsted, Jerry Dunn, Leslie Arnall, and is Peter, and Ashley's here. Ashley Tangaris is our board liaison. So thank you all for being here. We're really hoping that this will, in addition to what the presenters provide us, that we have a good, boisterous and informed question and answer session. As Nancy mentioned at the outset, there are a number of index cards, and what we thought we would do is we would take questions, and if we could ask you to write in the top right-hand corner, is your question directed to law enforcement and the police? Is it directed to the fire officials? Or is it directed to the council member, or maybe all? But certainly the topic here tonight is talking about what we can do as a community to be more mindful to safety, both our personal safety and fire safety. So thank you all for taking the time tonight to join us. I'd first like to introduce Lieutenant, sorry, my bad, Aaron Wallis. Aaron Wallis is sitting here. He's with the Sacramento Police Department and has been for nearly 20 years. In his capacity now, he is the watch commander for the East District, which encompasses our neighborhood. Before that, Lieutenant Wallis was a patrol officer, and a detective and a sergeant, and has been in the watch commander role since July of 2020. And Councilmember Guerra, good evening. How are you? Good evening. Good to see you. And I will introduce Councilmember Eric Guerra. He has been the council member for our, is it district?
Yes.
Our district for nearly 4 years. And we are very, very glad to have him join us as well. Jason Lee is the fire marshal for the city of Sacramento Fire Department, has been in that capacity for just about 6 years. Prior to that, he served as a fire prevention officer, which is a code enforcement and to make sure that buildings and events are held in a safe manner in accordance with city fire code and state law. And seated to his right is Jessica Wong, who is a fire prevention officer and has been with the city of Sacramento for about 3 years. So she is holding the position that Fire Marshal Lee held before. Interesting fact that I learned tonight in speaking with them, they are also sworn law enforcement officers. So in their capacity, they also can issue citations, can make arrests for arson and other fire-related crimes. And so we thank you all for being here. Councilmember Guerra, would you like to lead us off?
Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you all to those over in Zoom world here. Thanks for being out here today. You know, we've got a good showing tonight. First of all, let me thank our fire department and our police officers here. Let's give them a big round of applause because as you could tell, they're on duty all the time. So if they need to leave for an emergency, you know, we're going to try to appreciate their time while they're here today. First, you saw me running in. I want to apologize for that. We've got a 2-month-old. We just have a 2-month-old new baby named Matthias. So yeah, thank you. But you should thank my wife because she's the one who's got the 2 boys now on herself right now. So I do want to thank Cassandra Soto here. If everybody say hello to Cassandra, Cassandra in my office, she takes all the calls. So if you email our office and have questions, she just graduated Sac State last December as a proud Hornet in the that's fingers up, that's right. There's a lot of faculty members and folks from Sac State who live in the community here. But she started in December, right at the end of COVID, in the beginning of COVID, actually. And my understanding is I think the first time you went into the office was a couple months ago, right? That's true, correct. So interesting time. So Cassandra is important because anytime you guys anyone here has a question or wants to get a hold of me or the office, make sure you get a hold of Cassandra. She can triage a lot of issues. She works with our fire department, our police department, our code officers. And most importantly, I'd like to also ask if we do a round of applause for the board of directors for our homeowner association, Nepenthe Homeowner Association here. Let's give them a big round of applause and our staff here, because before I got elected to the council, I was on the neighborhood association for Tahoe Park Neighborhood Association. Let me tell you, that's real politics, being on one of these associations. Because you actually have to work on these immediate issues, neighborhood issues. So let me stop there and say, I know we've had it's been a crazy year and a half. Let me start off by saying that. It's been a very difficult year, a trying year for a lot of us, not only through COVID, pandemic. I know today we'll talk about fires, also fires in our region, in our air quality. Our firefighters have been, deployed all over the region to help them out. Our law enforcement officers also have been put to the task on a number of issues. And so it has been a trying year for all of us. And nothing goes, nothing, even right now, school is opening. A lot of our schools are trying to figure out how to function in this environment. It is a difficult time, or even our campus here, they're trying to figure out how to move forward. So the only thing I'll say is the only way that we can accomplish a lot of the issues we're going to talk today that are very passionate. I used to live on University Avenue here, so I remember everything from fires to the 97 flood where the water was like getting over to the edge of the levee. And even leaking through some of the squirrel holes on the side. The only way we're going to get through all of these issues is if we work together as department staff, as cities, as neighbors, neighborhood associations to really come together to find a good solution. So with that, thank you very much. Let's go Sacramento. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Guerra. Lieutenant Wallis, would you like to introduce yourself and discuss some of the issues that the city's police department is having? And I also understand that you may have some other information about the Neighborhood Watch program.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, not a problem. So first and foremost, if I have to run out, I apologize ahead of time. I'm still on duty, so we're still getting calls as I'm sitting here. But we brought some Tammy Hall, who is our organizer for Neighborhood Watch, who is very awesome and probably one of the best people to work with on our department. She gave me some flyers for you guys and then some that you guys can use. And a lot of it is little crime prevention tips. And then also the magnets are going to be geared towards getting together neighborhood watch programs. So for several years, I think since probably about 2016 or so, we used to have what we called CSRs, and they're community resource, like representatives that were community service representatives that were geared towards just a station. And those guys and gals would be the ones that would be in charge of all the neighborhood associations. And so basically they would come to meetings like this. They would set up all your neighborhood watch programs, and they were the direct contact for your board of directors. Well, we got rid of all these CSRs a while ago, and they're actually starting to come back with some of the stuff that we were able to do through the budget this last year. So they're starting to hire some of those people back, Tammy being one of the first ones, and hopefully she'll be in charge of everyone that goes out. So for you guys in this neighborhood, you're all in District 6, which is our district, which would also fall underneath the council members district. And so your guys' station, which is kind of weird for us, is down at 300 Richards. So it's a little bit different. So we're downtown. We're not really in the neighborhood per se, but Richards Boulevard. Yeah, so 300 Richards is right downtown there. So it's a little bit far away, but that's where a lot of your resources and stuff will be down there. For you guys out here, you guys actually have a pretty good pocket. I sent Bill some stats just recently, and I just looked before we came out here. And so from year to date up to 8/24, so just a couple weeks ago, some of your guys' home burglaries and some of those type of stat numbers are really quite low compared to the rest of the city. You still have some, by all means, everybody has them in all their neighborhoods, but comparable to most of the city, you guys are on the lower end. I think you guys had one over the previous week compared to like some neighborhoods that are having 5, 6 to 10 in a week. So some of those numbers are good. What does affect you guys a little bit more than most other people are going to be your car burglaries and then also some of your car thefts. Most of the neighborhoods like this that is really easy to get into, and then you guys have a couple of exits to get out. It's easy for people to come in one way, let's say over there off of Swarthmore behind us, and then go out at other end. It makes it pretty easy, and especially if cars are parked on the street, which you guys have some cars are parked on the street. So it makes it, those kind of things, easy access. And I think a lot of the stuff that you'll see in the crime prevention tips and some of the stuff in there will talk about how to make it less accessible to to people that want to commit crimes. If you make it hard, they don't want to do it. They want it easy, right? So if we could make it hard on them, then you're going to get a lot less crime now. So when we go down into more, if you guys have any other specific questions about that, we can talk a lot about that. The department itself, we're doing pretty good. You know, I know that like the council member said, it's been a tough year, but for us, we didn't get to work from home. We still had to go in every day. We didn't have too many Zoom meetings. The criminals didn't like using Zoom too much. So yeah, so we still had to go to our stations every day and go out onto the street and patrol. So, and I think we've been doing a pretty good job of that so far. I'm sure you guys heard that some of the big news that our chief is set to retire at the end of the year, which is sad for us. He's been a great chief. I've been very, very pleased with him over my 20 years. I think I've gone through 4 or 5 chiefs, and he's by far been the best one I've worked with. So anyway, that's it. If you guys have any other questions, we can definitely talk about them.
Thank you, Lieutenant Wallis. Mr. Lee, would you like to address some of the issues? I know we spoke beforehand. A lot of the issues that have come up recently with the fires along the American River Parkway. This is an area that that Fire Marshal Lee and his team work tirelessly on. So please thank him for being here and be sure to ask some questions at the end. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Lee. I'm the fire marshal for the city of Sacramento. I cover the entire city and parts of the county. I just want to make sure, can everyone hear me okay? I'll just kind of put my, and also this is Jessica Wong. She is one of our fire prevention officer extraordinaires. She's been with our team for about 3 years. So I just want to kind of start off by saying the fire marshal, I cover a lot of different area. I cover a lot of different items. So arson investigation is one, fire investigations. We find the cause and origin of the fires, and we also arrest for folks who start arson fires. We've been very, very busy, and I can get more into that in a little bit along the parkway and along throughout the entire area that we cover. I also cover all of the new construction activities for the fire department, both fire inspections, all the mandated inspections, public safety. So that's kind of what I cover. Also, not only the fire department has been really busy, not just locally, but statewide. We have a lot of resources currently out at the 3 major fires, which is the Caldor Fire, the Monument Fire, and the Dixie Fire. So we have over 50 firefighters currently deployed to those fires. And when they're deployed for 2 weeks at a time for 12-hour shifts. So what happens for us is that it really does lead to a lot of taxing of our resources because we are mandated to have a certain amount of resources here. And so it really is a difficult time for us because we have to manage our resources with that. The fires, unfortunately, a lot of the fires that we are seeing, there's many different reasons for them, but a lot of the fires along the parkway are human caused. And so one of my tough jobs as the supervisor and the fire marshal is to investigate and to find out who caused these fires and to look into that. We work closely with our park rangers, law enforcement, and that's really one of the major things for the summertime. In the summer, yearly, we average over 100 fires along the parkway. And so I know in the last recent few days, we've had quite a significant amount of fires. So we're currently investigating those right now. And as soon as we have the evidence that we would need to arrest, we will. On the average, we arrest approximately 100 individuals annually and respond to about 600 fires for fire investigation. So it's a big part of what we do within the fire marshal's office, within the fire service. And I'll be more than happy to answer any specific questions on any fires or any things along the parkway or anything like that. Also, not only that, but the fire service, we respond to fires. We respond to medical. 80% of our calls is medical aids. Also hazard materials response. So if there's any kind of instances of that, we'll respond. So we're a all risk organization. We do water rescue. So that's kind of like what we do in a nutshell as far as our overall. Specifically, going back to the fires, that's something that we're really looking at, and we're working with our regional partners, not only law enforcement, but our Department of Community Response, all of the agencies, county parks. And we really have to look at it as a coalition effort to find solutions for a lot of these problems. And we know a lot of them are human caused, but we have to find solutions. And that's one of my jobs as fire marshals, or as a fire marshal, to figure out and define these solutions so we can mitigate some of these hazards. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. Jessica, do you have anything you want to add for fire safety?
So as a fire inspector, I help enforce the fire code. We don't only inspect businesses, but we also inspect apartments. So if you guys have any questions about how to keep your apartment more safe, as in extinguishers, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, you guys can go ahead and ask me afterwards. And I also have pamphlets and brochures for you guys. It's general, so it hits a few points of a little bit of everything in each brochure, and you guys can check that out as well. Okay, thank you.
And there was one thing I forgot to mention in the introduction. We do have about 20 to 28, 30 people on Zoom. We want to invite each of you to submit questions as well. We would like, we'll make it the easiest is if you could place your questions in the chat, and Betsy will bring them to me, and then we can ask them to our guests tonight. But also please preface in your comments and question, is this a question that's directed toward Councilmember Guerra, to the police department, or the fire department? And it's possible that your question is tailored to everybody. So please feel free, our friends on Zoom, to also submit questions. Thank you. We will here open things up for questions and answer. Nancy, could you give me a hand with cards?
I'm waiting for questions. I just wanted to say one thing. One thing that I didn't mention to you before too is this is police officer. There's been a lot of concern about the racing of the cars on Howe Avenue at night. It's driving people crazy. So people are really wondering if there's anything that can be done about that. I don't know. I just wanted, so I didn't mention it before, so I just wanted to throw that out at you.
Thank you, Nancy.
You want me to? I can answer that for you right now if you like. I can help you out a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. So there is I wouldn't say it's a new sensation, but it's been definitely something that's been going on for years, ever since they started making these movies, Fast and Furious. And so with that, they have these kids and these groups and clubs that have started that like to do these things called sideshows. And so these sideshows will start usually in a big parking lot. Let's say one of the favorite spots for them to start is always at Delta Shores, which is way down off of I-5 down there in the south area. They can get about 300 cars in that parking lot, and then they'll start moving around the city. And what they'll try to do is take over intersections and do things of that nature. We have a really good group, two officers that are working the social media side of it, because that's how they post the days and times of when they're going to do it. And we try to do, in fact, there's one scheduled for the 12th. The 12th is a very significant date in the Fast and Furious, because that's the day that Paul Walker died. And I don't know if you guys know who Paul Walker is. He was a guy, one of the main characters in Fast and Furious. So the 12th is going to be a pretty big day. They have big events planned that day for a lot of these cars that race around. They'll set up, like I said, and they'll just go throughout the city. We'll have about 12 to 15 officers assigned to that, plus 2 helicopters. And usually what they try to do is that in most cases, we won't engage them too much when they're racing around. The air units will do a ton of the work for us, and they'll identify cars. Once they get to an area that's stopped, we'll start affecting arrests there or affecting stops there. They just passed a new law through the state of California. If you're doing some street racing, you can tow the car now for 30 days. So that's a big advantage for us if we can get those cars off the street for 30 days. So we're trying. It's definitely issue that is not just your guys' neighborhood. It's every district, and I'm sure every city council member has probably heard enough about it, and they want speed bumps everywhere. So it's definitely something that we try really hard to combat and try to stay ahead of. There's, just if it's not a scheduled event, it's 2 or 3 college kids that have some brand new car that they want to zoom up and down how. So it's difficult in nature to stop some of that stuff, the random stuff. But if we can stop some of the planned events, it works a little bit better for us.
Now, Lieutenant Wallis, you've also been working with the Sheriff's Department and CHP
Mhm.
and doing a combined effort to
Yes.
basically track them, because sometimes they go from unincorporated county
All the way Rancho
to
Cordova.
all the way
Yeah.
to Rancho. So it is a coordinated effort on that.
Yeah, for sure.
And you have impounded a lot of cars when you've stopped them as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think the last event they had, if my number's correct, they had 48 citations and I think 23 impounding cars. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is a question for Lieutenant Wallis. Are there statistics for this area available online or on the internet?
I think some of the crime stats, if you go to City of Sacramento or sacpd.org, you can look up, we have a transparency page, and underneath transparency, you'll see, reports, all kinds of critical incidents that we've been through, all the different officer involved shootings we've been in. And I haven't been on that page too often, but I think there might be a section on there where you can find some statistics for the areas. And most of the time it will be just geared towards either a quarter or some kind of year stats. They rarely, give out like a monthly or a week by week kind of thing. We do that more often internally, just for the mere fact for our detectives and some of the other groups that investigate the crimes, that to see there's any trends. But if you go to our transparency page, you should be able to find some statistics there.
Now, Lieutenant Wallace, you can also sign up to get the reports when incidents happen and
Yeah.
then get them frequently by your kind of neighborhood. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there's other ways you can do that through, I think, the website also on sacpd.org. You can sign up and you can get emails through that site. And you also get some text messages. Like, for instance, I live in Folsom and I've signed up through Folsom's PD, and they'll send me a text message when there's something going on. Yeah, you can get all that stuff, on there, yeah.
So that way, if you don't, if you don't want to hear what's happening over in North Natomas or
Yeah.
down in Meadowview, but you want to know what's happening in, say, East Sacramento, Campus Commons, Sierra Oaks, it's kind of relevant to where you're at, then you can narrow your input, your feedback.
Very good. And there was a follow-up question to this, to that last question. What are some of the best things that a neighborhood watch can do to help alleviate crime? And what's the best approach to getting neighborhood watch established?
Well, one is to call Tammy. She'll help you out a ton. But I think the best that you could do, it says it right on the front page of this thing, is be the eyes and ears for the police. And so in most cases, you're not going to have a patrol officer driving through this neighborhood 24/7. And there's only a couple things that happen 24/7, and that's you guys driving through your neighborhood every day. And so if you're the eyes and the ears and you have incidences, or if you have a neighborhood watch set up where you set times during the night. So a lot of neighborhood watches would go right at dusk, like it is right now. And a lot of people would either walk with their flashlights, or they have their reflective vest on and they have neighborhood watch on the back. I mean, I know that sounds like old school, but it helps. And it creates an atmosphere that criminals don't like to be watched and they don't want to be seen. Right. So their goal is not for you guys to see them do the crime, because then you can identify them. And so anytime that you can have the eyes and the ears out there, and if that's a neighborhood watch where you walk around one block, then that's what it is. It creates some kind of atmosphere that is not conducive to these guys walking in and being able to break a window and walk out in about 30 seconds to a minute. So.
Thank you. We did get a question from the chat about gasoline operated blowers. And does the city have any plans to try to restrict or regulate the use of gas operated machinery like blowers?
Yeah, the city recently passed an ordinance in conjunction with the Air District. I'm chair of the Air District as a council member. One of the things when you get elected to the council, they don't tell you you have to serve on all these other boards. So it's extra work. But this is one that I think has been a great one, working with, the fire department on this. So now when the air quality levels reach, I believe it's 100 AQI, anybody, not just a business, but any individual is restricted from using a gas blower as well. And that's not just because of the gasoline particulates, but when you're blowing dust into the air, you're adding to those particulates in that area. And so this is the first step. There is a wave, there is a movement nationally and even in California about moving into the new technology of electric blowers. And in fact, the Sacramento Air Quality Management District will be starting a pilot program with SMUD to change out your gas mowers for electric mowers. We're working also with El Dorado. They're doing it where they do it with the commercial haulers, the commercial folks to transition out of that. So the technology is new, but they're moving in that direction. But at the end of the day, the problem with mowers and blowers when the air quality is high, even if it's an electric one, you're adding particulates into the sky. Wait, that kind of rhymed. So I should have wrote that one down. So yes, for those in the chat, we are moving in that direction, and it is a positive direction to address air quality.
Great, thank you, Councilman. This is for our fire professionals. In case of a fire here, what is the best evacuation plan that you could recommend to our neighbors here?
Thank you for the question. So one of the main things that we look for that we really try to get out is to be prepared. First and foremost, to have a plan in place, have additional food, have additional medications, have a ready pack ready to go in case of emergency. Because if there's a fire or if there's a flood or any kind of emergency, you want to be prepared and have the information, whether that be through the citywide Everbridge, which is a reverse 911 system. Make sure the city has your information. We also are able to push information out via social media, through Twitter, through all the different social media platforms. So it's really to start with being prepared. And then as far as an evacuation component, depending upon what the emergency is, if it's a fire, if it's a single family house, having an evacuation plan for your house. Let's just say your house is on fire, having no two ways to get out of the house, basically, and having that plan for just a single house. Now, if it was a greater emergency, then we'll be able to provide information to you, and we'll work with local law enforcement, all our regional partners to really get the messaging out. And then we'll bring in all the resources to help facilitate a massive evacuation, for an entire area if need be. But it starts really with having a plan of action, getting all those resources together. If you go to, we have resources on our website, which is sacfire.org, City of Sacramento, but you can go to ready.gov, which is the FEMA website, and they have a lot of information as far as having a plan and having the type of resources that you need to put together for that plan. But it really starts there.
Great, thank you. We also have another question here on the chat, which you can see on the board for fire. And this may also be a question for the police and the city as well. But given the accumulating fuel load along the parkway, is any consideration given to a control burn in the future? And if so, what would that look like?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
you, buddy.
All righty. Yes, absolutely. So yes, we are discussing that. We actually did a controlled burn about 4 years ago along the Parkway, right by Cal Expo, and so that was successful. So we are planning, whether or not it's actual controlled burn, but we are planning to have to establish hand crews. I know there's other types of vegetation management that we're working with. The county of Sacramento has a very successful goat program. And I don't know if you've seen that, but it's, they love weeds, they love underbrush. So we work with the county and we're going to start coordinating earlier on in the season because right now it's too late to do a controlled burn because it's so hot and dry right now. If we were to do something like that or do some mitigation plans, it would have to be in the earlier on the season, February, March. So that's something that we're planning right now and looking at the different permitting, working with our local agencies and state agencies, because the parkway isn't just, the city of Sacramento, it's the county, it's the state. There's a lot of other agencies that we have to get permitting through. So that's something that we're all planning for coming up after the winter time here.
Thank you. And this is a question for police, and we had a couple of questions that were related to private security companies. So I'm going to try to digest the questions, but generally, what are the limitations of a private security agency? We do employ one here. They come in daily, but I think there's a lot of concern and certainly a couple of questions about what the limitations are for private security, and maybe if from a law enforcement perspective, what are the things that we should be asking our company to do?
So for a lot of security agencies, they're good ones and they're bad ones, right? And so we work with several throughout the city. And a lot of them are geared towards the business districts that we work with. But we have some in the neighborhoods. So most of them have zero police powers, meaning they can't make an arrest. They can detain people. So lack of a better saying, I guess, for them. They can stop and talk to people for sure. It's some kind of a form of detainment. But what they can do, which does help us out a little bit, is if they are an agent, and basically what that means is that they become an agent for your community, then what they can do is sign for you on trespassing forms. So meaning that we don't have to have the president of the homeowners association or the resident that lives at 123 Smith Street sign it. If you have a security company that has somebody that's in your neighborhood that shouldn't be here and they want to trespass them off the neighborhood, then they can sign the trespassing form for us. And then all that gives us is the opportunity. And the next time, if they're in the neighborhood and we contact them, that's a misdemeanor for us. So we can take them away, cite them out and get them out of your neighborhood. And then they have some kind of criminal protection against them. There are neighborhood security groups that are armed. Some of those groups, I wouldn't say are hard to work with, but it just creates a little bit more security questions for us, meaning that if we have a security guard that's armed, in fact, we just had an incident on Ramona where we had a security guard that was confronted and he protected himself and ended up shooting a couple guys over there. It creates a situation that's difficult for us. My suggestion is to get those groups that have an opportunity to act as an agent, and they can do the same things. They're going to be your guys' basically neighborhood community group or your neighborhood watch group for you that can be here 24/7, or you guys might be sleeping at night. They might be able to patrol at night. And they do exactly what it says on the front of this thing. They're going to be the eyes and ears for us. And they'll be able to sign those trespassing forms, which is, it's one of the easiest things for us because it gives us something to hold over these guys' heads, for lack of a better term, meaning that if I just come in here and this guy's not supposed to be in a neighborhood, there's only so many things I can do. If he has a trespassing form attached to his name, there's a little bit more I can do, and I can actually arrest him for a misdemeanor. So
Great, thank you.
yeah.
And this is sort of a related question. This community has a number of common areas, including here and behind us. There's a big swimming pool. We have tennis courts and swimming pools throughout this neighborhood. One of the questions was, what are some good ways that you would recommend that we secure those and try to deter trespassers and people who do not belong in the facilities?
Well, I think places, I'm sure, have some kind of lock or some kind of code system that you guys could use, or some kind of key system. Like I have to get in all my buildings, for all the city buildings we all have to get into. We have to key everywhere. So I think that would be your, first and foremost thing. The other thing that happens too with a lot of these security companies, if you guys post no trespassing, you can put your no trespassing signs up there. That helps out too, because then you have a trespassing violation. So just those two basic little steps is probably going to stop a lot of the encroachment in some of those public spaces. Anything that's locked, or anything that has fencing around, is really easy for us to enforce. Stuff that's public walkway or a public park, or let's say you have a common area that's just grass. If it's public where people have free pass walking back and forth through that, it's kind of difficult for us to enforce some things, especially with some of the new case law that goes on through the state and actually the nation. So.
Well, while they're getting that question, Lieutenant Wallis, it's one of the resources that the police department has is having an officer come out from our POP team to do the SEPTED, the crime
SEPTED.
prevention by environmental design, and give an analysis of it. Can you talk a little bit about that resource?
Yeah, totally. So we have teams now that are assigned to our stations, and for us at the central station, we have a POP team. It's problem-oriented policing, and the POP team's made up of a sergeant, and I think there's 7 police officers assigned to it. And so what they do is I was a POP officer years ago up in the north area, and basically all we try to do is come up with some kind of long-term solution to neighborhood problems, be it people sitting on the parkway where you don't want them. So one of those resources we use is what the council member is talking about, a SEPTED. And it's basically a prevention tool by using the environment to prevent some of the crime that's going on. For instance, you have park benches in a lot of the parks. And so there was a time where people would just sit on park benches. So we made a plan. We're like, okay, let's limit the park benches for a little bit. Let's either take one out and see what happens. If you take one out, does it limit the people to go in there? Maybe remove 2. Let's limit access. It's amazing if you put a 2-foot hedge in front of a sidewalk, how many people won't walk through it. And so little things like that, if it stops access, or if it doesn't look like convenient enough for me just to walk through or to sit down or to get that drinking fountain that's in the middle of the park. There was another one that always people getting water and some of the transients. But if you do some kind of environmental design, putting lights up, motion lights, any of those kind of things that you can think of, and changing some of the environment, and not really just having a police officer sit there the whole time, it actually helps out a little bit more. We do a ton of it for businesses. Businesses are really big on that, and it seems to help out with some of the problems that they have. SEPTED, so it's crime prevention, so CP, TED, SEPTED. Crime prevention through environmental design.
Thank you. And we have a great question for our fire professionals here. How often should residents be sweeping out and having their chimneys clean to prevent additional fire risk? What would be your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, yeah.
I think it should be yearly. It's like a maintenance thing. Just like for anything else, check all your batteries for all your fire protection in the house. Make sure your fire extinguishers are on the green. Everything that you do on maintenance should be yearly. Yeah, just like the leaves in your gutter, you would do that yearly.
That's what we would recommend.
Great, thank you. There were a couple of follow-up questions about other types of crime deterrence and surveillance systems like cameras. Do you think, Lieutenant Wallis, that those are effective, putting those in common areas or even on the side of homes?
Oh, yeah, hands down. It's amazing to me what we have. You guys are pretty lucky in a system. I don't know if 1984 and Big Brother kind of thing, but we have, I think at the time right now, we have 167 pods. Yeah, something like that. So pods are police observation devices, and they're hooked to a lot of the major intersections. You'll see them on some of the lights, the traffic lights, and they'll be up there. And so once we put the pod system in throughout the city, it was amazing how many crimes we started solving. And what they do, those things do, is they record, they'll pick up license plates. They'll, like, for instance, if you have one right here at University and Howe, if a car drives through that intersection, they'll pick it up. Let's say a crime happened and they started to go, northbound Howe, whatever that is, and they run through that intersection, we can pick up the plate just by, if you gave a car description, a silver Honda, and the time of day, we can start looking through that. So camera systems, I think, have evolved over the years that have done nothing but help us solve crimes. Just recently, I don't know if you guys heard, there was a tragic homicide down in Land Park area. Individuals walking around, knocking on doors. Well, one of the ways they identified that suspect was that he actually knocked on a door 2 houses down prior to committing the crime 2 houses away. Well, that door that he knocked on had a Ring camera, and it picked him up, and it gave us the best picture of that guy. His tattoos, what it said, his facial features, the whole 9 yards, and it put him there at the time of the crime and everything. So I think camera systems are great. I think they're useful. I think Ring cameras are useful. I think if you have the opportunity to use cameras, put them up. For instance, my homeowners association, they won't let me put it on the front of my house. In fact, I got in trouble the other day and they told me to take it down. So, but I took it down. I took it down and just stuck it in one of my front windows. But anyway, it's still there. So, but I think they're very useful, and I think they supply information that we need to solve crimes. And without information and without any of those type of leads, things are not going to get solved as often. So
Now, Lieutenant, one of the things about the Ring camera and they have a website called neighbor.com,
right.
which is different than Nextdoor, which you guys can't comment on. Like, people will post things on Nextdoor, but you can't see it. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So there's a new, like, we've worked with, Ring has actually worked with a lot of different law enforcement agencies throughout the nation, and they've come up with community groups, just like if you have your nextdoor.com, you have your different groups, and what the Ring groups are is a neighborhood Ring group. And so if you apply and then you put in your camera, the camera will be accessible to other neighbors, to the police department if there's a crime in progress, or if you're on vacation and you have your Amazon packages on your porch, that's available for people to make sure that you guys' houses aren't being burglarized, or your porch is getting burglarized of your Amazon packages. It's a great system, and it's useful to not only us, but the neighbors involved in the community, for sure.
Along with those pods, do you guys use Spotify? The gunshots?
That's ShotSpotter. Yeah, so we have ShotSpotter in 3 different areas of our city right now. North area, down in south, and then we have it out in the east area, Oak Park area. So basically all that is it's a high tech acoustic system that triangulates sound. And when it triangulates the sound, it'll take the sound of gunshots out of, all the ambient sound and be able to pinpoint where it's at. And what it does is then we have little apps, and we have on our computers in the car. Most guys have them on their phones, and then it'll pinpoint a location of where the gunfire came from. And so then we can literally go to the house and find either shell casings or somebody standing out in the street, and just leads to more guns being seized. That solved probably when I was a gang sergeant, and that was part of my team, was our ShotSpotter team. And gosh, I don't know, 50 times probably we got a gun out of it every time it went off. So
That's great. That certainly the advents in technology is a great thing. So thank you for whoever asked that question. This is probably a question that could be directed to everybody here who's joined us tonight. When a homeowner becomes of active crime activity or an emergency, who is it best to call? And as I guess on average, what should residents expect for a response time? So like a 911 call, what would be a average response time, and does it vary by time of day and day of the week?
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah. So response time is probably one of the biggest things we try to measure as a police department, especially when it's 911. Any 911 call we try to answer pretty much post haste, right? Meaning, so we're going to try to get there. And it depends on the type of call. So we have a call structure, and how we dispatch our calls is going to be different. Obviously, you have some active felony in progress. Those kind of calls are going to go really fast. So your felonies are assaults, shootings, somebody's breaking inside your house and you're inside. That's going to be getting us here pretty quick. Homicides, those type of things are going to be really high priority calls for us. As the calls go down from there, you could probably imagine the response times are going to also increase a little bit. So, if you call and somebody ran a stop sign right here at Swarthmore and you want us to get out here, we're probably not going to come out real quick for that one. But if someone's here available, you never know, they might be able to get here a little bit quicker. But what we try to do is prioritize those calls from your pretty active, going on right now, felonies, all the ones that, would be a little bit lesser in priority. But we try our best to do a lot of that. And I think everywhere across the board, that even for fire, and then it comes up in city council a lot too for these guys, that, our goal is to be there for you guys as quick as we can. And I think that we all try to do that, but we're in a city of now, I think just went over 500,000 people. So, and we patrol a lot of places. And so we try our best for sure. And like these guys are talking, I love these guys to death, because I don't know how many times we got to call them for medical calls. We rarely, I don't think I've been on one fire call. It's been a medical call all the times for these guys. So.
Yeah, and I can just add to it. So depending on the type of call, we're going to try to be out as fast as we possibly can. So how we work is we are the Sacramento Fire Department. That's the fire department. However, we operate regionally. What I mean by that is if you call for emergency right now, there may be a Metro Fire engine or a truck or an ambulance unit that might be closer. They're going to go to the call first. So we don't just treat as Sacramento City, we treat as a regional. So the first one, the closest unit to the emergency will go. And that's how we do our regional dispatch center. And also, let's just say if we have a unit that's already here on a different call, whether it's an auto accident, medical aid, we may get another a unit from another area. So it also depends upon that will also depend upon how quick we can get here too, depending on what's going on in the area. If there's a major fire, we're going to send 4 to 5 units to that fire on what we call the first alarm, which is the first initial fire, and then we can add additional units. At some fires, the larger ones, will have maybe over 100 firefighters from all around the region, especially if we have a large grass fire or on the parkway or something. So it all depends upon whoever we have that's closest to be able to the emergency. We'll get it first.
Then I think to the question here, it's almost like a triage. If you see an incident, right? If there's a violent crime or a fire or life and death situation, you call 911. Always call 911. If there's a crime that, a burglary or someone broke into your car, there's a non-emergency number. Is that correct, Lieutenant Wallis? And what's the non-emergency number? Do you have that?
808-5461.
808-5461?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
So
It's on here.
Yeah, exactly. It's on here. So make sure you take that one.
Yeah.
And then, then you have your code calls. So, issues that you see in the area, your 311. And when you don't know who else to call, as long as it's not an emergency, you can call 311 and the city will help you triage you where you need to go. Parks, solid waste, code enforcement, and we have 17 different languages now that we can help translate on 311, even the 911 call. We in District 6, we have a very, very diverse district where we have Mien, Hmong, Vietnamese, Spanish, Russian languages that are spoken and many more. And our both police and fire have helped with training people to even understand how to use these systems and being able to call. And also, there's one that's not widely known, but there's 211. So if you see someone who needs housing or homelessness or who's affected and needs services, you can call 211 and that'll get them resources or connected to resources too. But I think if you're thinking about, like, the question was, who do you call or what do you call? You have 911, you need emergency, your non-emergency police number, you have your 311, and then you also have this 211 option. Did I get those right?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Sounds great.
Thank you. And this is another technology related question and kind of an interesting one. For those who are interested in trying to figure out what is going on, let's say you hear a bunch of sirens or you hear helicopters that are circling above, is there any sort of website or an app-based technology or scanners that you would advise people to try to look into?
It's up to you. I mean, I know there's a ton of, like, for us, I think on the website also, or sacpd.org, you could pull up the helicopter right now if it's up and about.
Pulse Point.
Yeah, Pulse Point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an app that you can download for free on any smartphone, and I have it on my phone also, but it will have the type of calls for, you can follow any type of fire agency, whether it's metro or city, and then it'll have a list of the calls that are in the area.
But, I mean, that's a private, app. But I would encourage everyone to, if you are into the social media technology, follow the police department, follow the fire department on their either Twitter or Facebook page, or if you're into the Instagram, the younger folks are into the Instagram, because you're not only getting the immediate information, the public information officer for the police department is giving out information at that point, and same thing with the fire department, but also they give out other information that they're doing for services, public service announcement, other resources that you can get versus the I don't know, what do they call it? The meaty,
The meaty stuff, the fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The clickbait
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah, I would encourage everyone to at least sign up to those so you can get the other information that we're trying to get across to the public about.
Great advice. Thank you. And it's certainly interesting with the advances in technology. This is a question for police, but it says, I see young men with backpacks on bikes riding through our walkways constantly. They are not students. They are here likely looking for things and to stuff their packs with. What is the best way to discourage that kind of transient theft opportunity?
It's a good one. Well, I think that it's difficult one. Okay, so I always think of it in a couple ways. You have to take away something that they don't want to do. And one of the biggest things you can do is take away the opportunity. So like Bill said, if they have an opportunity to do something, they're going to do it. Meaning you leave your garage door open, you leave your car door unlocked, you leave your purse on a front seat, you leave anything that's visible. Like if I could walk by these cars right now on the parking lot, I'd be amazed. I bet how many things I could see on the seats right now. And those things are all opportunity. So these guys are career opportunists. They're not criminals, they're just career opportunists. And they just look for the opportunity. And they really do. And once they see that opportunity, most likely, like you and I, we have this little thing in our brain that tells us not to do it. A lot of these guys don't have that. And so they take the opportunity to do it. So my first instinct is for you, so on your end, to do a lot of things where you could take that opportunity away, lock your doors. If you want to leave your front door open, I know a lot of people, it's hot and sometimes you leave your front door open, have a locked screen door, one of the bigger ones. One of the best doors that I've seen is called a Starburst door. It takes our SWAT guys 3 or 4 times to get some of those doors. It's amazing how hard and heavy they are. So those kind of things, take away the opportunity, they won't be able to get there. You're in a tough situation because you're so close to the river, which also makes it a nice thing, right? But when you're close to the river, that's also access for a lot of these guys, because a lot of the people live down in there in the parkway, or they travel along the American River Parkway. And, they might not live right on the other side of the levee here, but they'll get on that parkway and ride it all the way down to Northgate or some other area down there where they live. So, but if you take a lot of that opportunity away, like I said, they won't, stop to try to open a garage door. They'll look for the garage door, your neighbor that's open. So
Thank you.
hopefully that helps.
Absolutely. Thank you. Did anybody else want to chime in on that? Okay, we have a couple of questions. There's one up here in the chat, and it's directed to Councilmember Guerra to discuss what some of the latest plans to deal with the growth in homeless population.
Yeah, so if first I would ask everyone to go to the city, if you just Google cityofsacramento.org and then Google homeless master plan or homeless comprehensive plan, it'll pop up the first thing that should pop up is the master plan on the city. And the plan itself is multi-phase plan. We are working with our health providers. We're working with our human services agencies, our county officers, our law enforcement, our fire department. It is a very comprehensive plan to look at a number of issues. One, siting and locations. One thing that folks aren't commonly aware of is that we actually are housing a number of people every year into permanent housing and supportive housing. The challenge is it's nowhere near the capacity that we actually have. So one of the important things, if you want to look at the sheer statistic numbers of where our demand is and how much we're actually accomplishing and achieving, you can go to Sacramento Steps Forward. Sacramento Steps Forward will have out the data of everything that we're doing with the countywide about getting people there. But the reality is that between the housing demands, the challenges in our substance abuse and mental health treatment issues, and all of those combinations that lead people to homelessness, homelessness is a symptom of a number of failures in other parts of our society. The only commonality in that is that those folks who are found themselves unhoused in that situation, whether they're an individual or a family, have no safety net. That is the commonality. So what the plan tries to do is identify locations for different types of services, for different types of needs. It has become much more difficult because of the legal challenges throughout the last few years. I think 5 years ago, probably we didn't have as many legal challenges to respond to the needs, and the demand and the sheer number versus the resources that are out there, both on the medical and housing side, have also been limited. So what the plan tries to do is break that apart. Everything from the safe ground, which is the sanctioned, camping sites, to safe parking, which is where people can park safely, to tiny home locations, to permanent supportive housing, to motel retrofits, which we've already had some experience in District 6 of retrofitting motels for services, but with the end goal of finding a place where we can give people a start in connection to services. One of the unique things about District 6 in our plan is that we do have UC Davis Medical Health System that has been active in our participation of how do we create a mobile unit to get also services to people once you find a location for them. The biggest challenge that we have is even in moving people is if we don't have a place for them. It's taken us 4 years to open up 2 shelters, each with a capacity of about 100 every single night. But because of COVID, they're limited down to half that size. The women's shelter in Meadowview, huge success, very controversial at first, but has shown so much progress and success stories of getting women onto their feet and into independence. It is a clear example that there is a way to do it, but that's only right now 50 beds for what we're looking at right now. Women and children that are unhoused are estimated somewhere over, I think it's 1,300 in our area, which is a dramatic. We have a motel right now, the Greenbrier Motel on Stockton Boulevard, that has housed families during COVID who've been homeless. And we've been having the kids take classes at Colonial Heights and helping them with their service at Colonial Heights Library to get services. So just the sheer number on the family housing side. So the master plan itself has a number of these things, and it could be its own night on itself. So I encourage everyone to go out and look at that. I will say one of the big successes that we've had recently was Project Home Key allowed us to apply for a significant amount of money. And with St. John's Center for Real Change, which is right nearby, and also we were able to apply for a Project Home Key application to use manufactured housing. And within a period of 4 months, we were able to get spaces for 55 units for women and children who are experiencing homelessness for whatever reason, whether it was loss of employment, domestic violence. The reason is not the important part, but getting them into a place where you can triage their needs. So where we are today, we approved the first siting plan, which identified sites throughout the entire city. The next phase will be the finance plan. And the finance plan looks at where all the funding is coming from. There is an extraordinary amount of federal, state dollars that are available right now to cities. And for the city of Sacramento, we are aggressively trying to position ourselves to capture as much of that as possible, because frankly, other cities are doing that now. And we don't know if we will ever have this opportunity with this amount of money to do that. Now, we can't be reckless about it, which is why we have so many of our health partners, our community partners, and folks who are involved in drafting the progress of this plan. So what we'll probably see is routinely report outs. I know in my council district, once we get the finance plan going, we're going to start having regularly briefings with the community about how the plan is going, where we're opening up sites. And interestingly enough, former council member of District 6, for those who remember, back then, Councilmember Lloyd Connolly, who was then Assembly Member Lloyd Connolly, now Judge Lloyd Connolly, right before now he's retiring, but we pulled him back in. And so now he's decided to give his time to help us triage the execution of this plan. He's finishing up the big, large mega courthouse project. And so he's an expert in managing that on the administration of these projects. So it's exciting to see how this will evolve. But the biggest challenge, particularly in District 6, has been locations and sites for folks, because there isn't any public land. Many folks will see, like, there's been a homeless camp that's opened up, here on Fair Oaks and Howe. They're all over the district. In fact, before the plan, when we were drafting this plan, I had our business improvement districts go out and count the camps, some large, some very small, but we counted about 142 in the entire council district, all over the area. So the demand of the need is so great. And one thing that I impress upon folks is that even in these camps, it's not a monolithic group. You'll have people who are from down on their luck to severely needing mental resources, to a family itself living in their car. And the most tragic thing is seeing so many kids that are out there as well too. So it is not I encourage folks to recognize that it is not a myopic problem that we need to solve. It is a very complex, comprehensive one, but one that we've got, I think, a solid step forward moving forward there. So, and that could take all night. So we can, and I'm glad to talk to anyone about that. Yeah. So.
And Lieutenant Wallis or Fire Marshal Lee, did you guys have any thoughts about homeless? What are some of the particular challenges that public safety is facing? And I imagine it's part of a holistic plan with city leadership, but any thoughts that you have would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like council member said, several years ago, we had opportunity to move camps. We used to be able to move people. We'd be able to take them off some of the public sidewalks and actually, have them go to different areas throughout the city. There's a case in Boise, Idaho, several years ago that stopped all law enforcement throughout the nation from doing that. You can't move them off public space anymore, meaning that now they can sit on the sidewalk or wherever they're at. So for us, we've got some of our hands tied as far as enforcement action goes, but it doesn't tie our hands for some of the other stuff like Councilmember Guerra has been talking about. We worked with the city a lot in trying to do different plans. I know that we started a new department within the city the Department of Community Response that is working with the homeless in particular and trying to provide services and working that type of angle instead of always enforcing and trying to help. So it's difficult in nature. We still can enforce certain crimes though. So we tell businesses, and businesses seem to get the worst punch of this sometimes. But let's say if you're the Del Taco on Alhambra and you have a guy that's sitting in your drive-through, we can still trespass that guy because he's on private property there and Del Taco doesn't want him there. We'll be able to, sign a trespass on him. So we can do some of those things. If he's standing out on the sidewalk on Alhambra and he's just standing there, there's not a lot we can do. It's public space and you can stand there. So we try to do as much as we can for those groups. I mean, it doesn't mean we can't go talk to the guy. I mean, I always tell people still we can go talk to him and say, hey, you can't be here, and if he wants to move on, he can move on. But there's a little bit enforcement stuff that we've gotten handcuffed on, but hopefully some of that is turning around. I think I think as you get some of these areas and some of these safe grounds in different areas, it'll start kind of thinning out, I believe, in some of the metropolitan, some of the thick communities like this, and it'll start spreading out to where they'll go to those areas. So in a way, it's kind of good to have some of those areas because it's almost centralized, right? You know where everybody's at then. So it helps out a little bit that way. So. And then for you guys, I mean, I just had 2 calls tonight because of fire, because of those guys.
Yeah.
So as fire marshal, this item has really been a huge part that I've been working on the last 3-4 years. So I look at it from a multitude of different ways. So we, the fire department, the fire prevention division will inspect and do the planning and new construction inspections on all of these types of new homeless shelters and the services that we can provide, safe grounds. And I'm one of the staff members that will go out to look at these different locations. I work closely with our law enforcement partners, plus also the Department of Community Response. We also look at it from the fire code enforcement aspect of it. And just to dovetail off of what Lieutenant Wallis was saying, there's also the COVID order, which was from for COVID-19, that really also hampered our ability to move folks to safer areas. And so the way it works in a nutshell is that if we have a location for somebody to move to, then we could work with our local partners to help them move to it. But if we don't have the space available on public land, we don't have the ability to affect positive change with that. So that's why it's a two-sided or multiple-sided story. We need to have additional services, just like Councilmember mentioned. We need to have additional services available, and then also we need to work with our local partner agencies, whether that's the county or park rangers along the parkway, to find locations for folks to move to. Because I just don't want to move somebody from this location to across the street, because it's not really going to solve the problem and be a part of the solution. We want to put folks in a safe environment. And in order to do that, we need to have additional areas for our safe grounds and safe parking and homeless shelters and places of that, tiny homes.
Thank you all. It's without a doubt, it's an incredible challenge. Thank you all for your work on it, both at the city governance level and then public safety. There's no clear solution, as the council member said. There was a follow-up question that about the fires that have been happening on the American River Parkway and throughout. I mean, it could happen anywhere, but along the levees, I think, is a big concern for us, just given the proximity of the levees to us. Who have been the overall perpetrators? I'm quoting the question, but has there been a pattern of the folks there? Are they people who are out deliberately setting fires for fun, or are these accidental fires that are part of a circumstance of where people are living?
That's a great question. I'll answer that one. So we do have ordinances in place for fires and for camping along the levees. What we see as far as the data is we have a group of individuals that are setting fires or human caused. And that could be for mental illness, for drug, and that could be for retaliation. So there's that second. And then we also have a group of fires that are set because of accidental fires, cooking fires, warming fires. And so we have, when we do our investigation, we have to go out and figure out. And that's why if it's a crime, if we determine a crime, if it was arson or if it was retaliation or something of that nature, we'll investigate along that side. If it's accidental, we'll also do that too. But we treat things a little differently as far as that. But those are kind of the two largest areas that we see are, it's human caused fires, we know that, but we have to figure out, is it intentionally arson related versus accidental, and cooking and warming fires. So that's kind of the two different areas that we mainly see a lot of this activity along just the parkway, the levees, and throughout for a lot of these fires.
Is there anybody here who had a question that didn't get a chance to ask it or to hand forward a card? We do have a few more minutes, and we certainly appreciate the time that our guests here have taken with us. Yes.
Well, there's multiple different reasons why folks would set intentional fires. It could be for retaliation. That's what we see. We oftentimes will see if there is a disturbance or argument between homeless camps. We see that. Also, a lot of it really is mental illness and drug related. A lot of the fires is because we have folks out there that need mental health services. And that's what we're seeing a lot of the activity. And also a lot of it is drug related too. So those are the three main reasons why we see the amount of fires, amongst this population.
Thank you. And somebody on our Zoom chat said, can someone repeat the questions for those on Zoom? And the question was between the deliberate intentional fires and the accidental fires, was there any sort of pattern or statistic or trend? Hopefully that enables everybody on Zoom to understand the context of what Fire Marshal Lee just addressed. Does anybody else have any questions? Yes.
We actually had a man at our door at 1 o'clock in the morning a few weeks ago, just not banging on the door, just rapping on the door. He wasn't kicking in the door, but he was very persistent, and our dog was barking her head off. And what kind of call is that? I mean, I didn't call the police. I called our security, which wasn't able to do anything. And after, 10, 15 minutes, he went away.
Right.
So, nothing happened.
So to me, that's probably, if you have your safe inside your house, it's probably a non-emergency call for us. But I always tell people, I tend to lend how you feel. Like if you feel unsafe, then you call 911. It doesn't matter if he's just standing there knocking on your door, wanting to sell you insurance and you're not sure about it. Call 911, and it never hurts to call 911 because all we have to do is if you hear 911 and it's not going to be an emergency call, the dispatchers will take care of it and make it a call that is either a lower priority or whatever. But, I tend to caution on the side of if you feel fear, then like if I always put myself in your situation, right? So if my wife is at home right now and she's sitting there and there's a guy that she doesn't know knocking at our door and it comes up on my ring, I would call Folsom PD. So.
Great question. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, Linda.
I don't think on the American River Parkway, I've ever seen a sign that said no camping. Is there such a sign? And if that's a designated area, then it would seem like the people who are camping there are trespassing. Am I overthinking this?
I don't know. That would be a county park rangers.
right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about all the times it's for.
I don't think
when
I've
lived
ever
here.
seen, and I've done the complete,
And our
Yeah.
county, I mean, our city parks rangers will sometimes assist, but it is a county ranger issue, but fire marshal, do you?
Yeah, so generally, we don't generally see, no camping signs. However, because it's public property, that also leads to the issues that we were talking about, with the Boise decision, with our
Federal
ability
court
to
decision.
move people because it's public property. If it was in a private property like your backyard or on your property, then it's trespassing laws, which is different than versus public property. So that's one of the main issues that we have with enforcement, unfortunately.
So that is considered public property,
The-
the American River.
The
Bike.
parkway that's owned by the county or the
Right,
city
right.
would be considered any.
It's
any
public use, but yeah,
Yes.
okay. I just think it's sad. I remember moving to Sacramento like 40 years ago, and the parkway was like the showpiece.
Oh, yeah.
And when my daughter was young, we used to ride the bikes and, and I have grandchildren now, and I'm a little fearful
Yeah.
of the bike trail.
Mhm.
And I spent a lot of my years working in North Sacramento. And I know the area down by Northgate, and I wouldn't dare ride my bike down there. But I just think it's very sad what's happening to the parkway. And then I see the fires this year, and I don't remember the fires, this many fires before. And so hopefully you can find a definitive answer about, is this someone who's actually an arsonist, or is this someone that, it's an accidental fire? So thank you. Thank you all for being here, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Can I weigh in on the Parkway fires issue? Before I lost my wife to breast cancer, she was the county parks director. And there were numerous years when they were definitely arson set. One year, a guy walked along the parkway and set 10 consecutive fires, basically from Gady Park, Riverbend Park, all the way up to Sunrise. So it does happen.
Yeah, and I remember both when I mean, this is in like the mid 90s when I, was a college student without a car, so I walked around the parkway a lot. And there were every now and then some small fires that you could see, particularly like on the other side underneath the water treatment plant. There used to be a person who was under there. But I will say that arson aside, which is a criminal act, and that we have investigators and people who go after that. That if we don't seriously look at the bigger issue of finding locations and services and places for folks who are living on the parkway, we're not going to address that issue. If you think about, I think about when I was in the Scouts, how much they drilled into you about your campfire, what to do, how much spacing, clearing it out, and everything. Even when we went backpacking and had our own little stove, the thought about making sure you manage that fire. And if you've got someone who either has mental illness or substance abuse, or they're in a position where they're just at their end, it's no wonder we're having these fires that happen, because they're probably not in a situation where they're managing that fire correctly. So again, the real issue that we got to come down to is getting at the issue for the need for addressing the overall challenge for people that are living on the street. And for that, it's going to take a lot of, I think there's over, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have over 6,000 in the county. Is that, that we're?
I think the city's probably around 6,000.
So the city's about 6,000.
I think countywide, it's like over.
Yeah, it's a
8,000,
pretty
so.
significant number. So the challenges that we have isn't like 100 beds here or 50 there. Like it is, we have to, and with the federal court ruling, and Lieutenant Wallis, you can correct me on this. If you were to narrow it down, it's basically if you don't have a place for them, you can't move them off public land. And so it doesn't also make economic sense for us to just move them to one place to another, because we can move them off the parkway and then they'll walk down Power Inn Road and they'll start a fire along Railroad Avenue and in another area. In fact, on 82nd Street, I was earlier talking to the Power Inn folks about fires that are happening over on 82nd Street in the industrial area. And so it really, rather than playing this, game of whack-a-mole. There we go. You know, we have to hit the issue head on, you know, and it's not easy. And frankly, unfortunately, it ain't cheap. And we just got to take at it every day. So.
There was a question on the chat that I'd like to address, and it's addressed to police, but I think it would also be a good opportunity for our fire officials to speak on. But how large an area for the respective agencies, police and fire, how large are the areas assigned to us? How much land do they have to cover, and how many, I guess, police and firefighters cover the area?
Yeah, so it's, so your guys' district is the largest district in the city.
Yep.
And so Sector 6 covers, so if you went all the way west, it would be Alhambra. And I guess north would be all the way up to, right at like C and that little area, Elvis, that kind of area there. And then south, we go all the way down, Power Inn, all the way down to like Florin Perkins, all the way east to like Watt. So we cover a big area. We take a little chunk out when you hit 99 and like 12th Ave. We'll stay on 99 basically, and one would be the south area and the other side would be east, but we'll take 99 all the way down to Elder Creek area down and a little bit south of that.
Yeah.
Florin Park, yeah.
Florin, almost Florin Road, Florence
Road,
County,
yeah.
but yeah.
So it's a
Yeah.
wide area. So on any given shift, so for instance, right now on our shift, you'll have 9 officers assigned to the area, 1 sergeant. Incorporated inside of that, so not just the officers themselves that'll handle your patrol calls. We also have a gang enforcement team we call ESCET, and there's 4 guys on that team right now, so we have 4 of them out. And then we also have 2 shot spotters that we talked about, 2 officers that respond to shot spotter calls. So you have about 6 additional. So total in the east area, if we were to have a major call, we have about 15 officers and 1 sergeant that can respond. And then I'm the lieutenant for the area, but I also cover like north too. So I'll do Del Paso Heights a little bit. So.
And our is now Sergeant Marnie, Lieutenant Marnie Steigers,
Yep.
she's our executive
Yep.
here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So it's, and then it just changes as it goes, day shift, you'll have 7 officers out with 1 sergeant, and then graveyard, you'll have 7 officers and 1 sergeant. Those times overlap a little bit. We'll overlap probably about 3 to 4 hours during the day. So at any one time, you could have almost up to 25 officers in the district.
Yeah. And most recently, East Command, we added 2 new traffic
Yeah.
enforcement officers because
Totally.
we know that the issues have been, it's a big district with
Right.
a lot of big 4-way, 4-lane
Intersections, yeah.
intersections with, where that, so, and then, not so much here, but I think on Stockton Boulevard, we added some of the bicycle officers to help with the day-to-day visibility. So.
Yeah.
Hi, I have a question. Well, you might be aware we had a couple pretty, I'd say semi-bad incidents, burglary across the street, and that was in the day, in the morning, where they got in through a window that was not quite street facing, but you could see it from the street, wasn't through the back. And then I think another one, was it about midnight, where someone was knocking on the door and they pounded on the door and said, "I have a gun." So I think, those resulted in us wanting to have all of you here, but I'm just wondering, I think that's my biggest fear. I live alone with a little dog and sometimes my son, but a lot of us live alone. And what kind of crimes are you seeing? Are they in the day? Was there a door open? Are they getting in through the back gate? What are kind of the commonalities to some of these crimes?
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that we're lower than the rest of.
Yeah, and you
area.
are. And so crime is never a or kind of not a linear thing. So it's never like this is going to happen if this happens kind of way. So it's really hard to predict crime. We try our best to run a lot of numbers, and we have these things called ComStat and all these different analyticals that we put in. But in most cases, it is just a random thing that happens sometimes that has the opportunity there for the suspect or whoever the perpetrator is doing it. If it's a window facing the street and they try to do the window on the side, that's just them, you know, trying not to be seen by people driving by the stop sign and that kind of thing. So it's hard to say that it's going to happen that way every other time. I don't think there's a real dynamic way to identify how crime is going to happen. But I always preface that, like we were talking about earlier, there's only one person that can prevent all the crime that's going to happen, and that's going to be you. And so there's a lot of things you can do. Ring cameras are great. Motion lights are great. Dogs are great. If you have a dog that likes to bark, I know your neighbors probably hate it, but criminals hate it too. So those are really great deterrents for some of those things. Keeping your stuff locked up. If you have things that you have out in front of your yard, you know, a lot of people put statues and some other design things out there that they like to have out in the front yard. It's hard to tell people, hey, don't spruce up your house. But if you present some of the things that are opportunistic for people to take, they're going to take them. If you have a garage, park your car in the garage. If you have a garage door opener, put the garage door opener somewhere other than your car. A lot of people, I'm the first one to admit it. It's sitting right there on my, you know, my visor. So I hit it right when I come in. But those are the things you want to take off. If you're driving, let's say, if you're going downtown to a restaurant and you want to go eat, take some of your garage door things off. People will drive around and just click those things from neighborhoods just to see what they do. Yeah, there's other ways of getting around a lot of that stuff. But if you limit the opportunity and the access, then those are the two biggest things that those guys will look for. Shut your windows at night. I used to be one of the guys that would leave my bottom window open all the time, and I don't know why I did it. And for some reason, all of a sudden it clicked in my head that I'm not, you know, walking my walk and what I preach. And so we started closing all the windows, and I pay a little bit more in the SMUD bill. So, you know, that's just for me to prevent crime. So I think it's just different that way.
Follow-up question to that. What is the efficacy of the windows that have a little block, right? So you can open it for 3 or 4 inches.
Yeah.
Does that do any good?
So like if you opened your window up and it had just the block so it couldn't open up any longer.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, there's ways of defeating a lot of stuff, right? The one thing I've never seen a criminal defeat is all those little dowels you used to put in your sliding glass
The wood
doors.
dowels, yeah.
The most simplest thing you could do. And I've never seen guys defeat that. And it's really weird. But I think there's ways of making things safe. You could try to do that if you want to leave your windows open. And I think if you're thinking ahead, that's just even better for you, because now the criminals are going to have to work a little bit harder to get in, and which in turn either alerts a neighbor, alerts a dog, makes your motion light turn on, whatever it may be that makes them run away.
Okay, another question. Curtains open or curtains closed? Which should you do? If you close your curtains, you're advertising maybe that you're not there. Not that if you leave for a long time, you're gonna leave them open, but
Right.
any.
So there's no real hard, fast rule on that.
Okay.
It's up to you, however you want to do it. If I did it, this is what I would do. I would leave my drapes open during the day just so you can have them. But at night, I'd close them and put a light on behind it, because then it looks like somebody's up.
Okay, thanks.
We have a time light.
Yeah, time light.
The
Yeah.
time light's a great one, right?
Yeah.
by the window.
There was a question.
Thanks. This might be a silly question, but can you leave your windows open on the second floor overnight?
It's personal choice. I'm sure you can. If there's no access of getting up there, let's say you don't have a tree next to your house or a fence next to your house, that's easy to climb up there. I'm telling you, they'll find a way, you know, and I just know, like, you guys probably have trash cans that you leave on the side of your house. So a lot of people can climb on those trash cans and get up onto a gutter pretty easily. In fact, we've had cops that have done it 1,000,000 times just to get over onto a roof on somebody that's up there. So, you know, if there's a way, they'll find a way. But just understand that just creates more stuff that they have to do. That means they got to find a way. That means they got to put a trash can up against the door. That means they got to, you know, make a lot more noise climbing up a house than they do just walking through a garage door. So all those little things for us as a community or as a neighbor or as a dog, whatever it may be, when those things start happening, those are the things you got to pick up on. It's really easy. One time, I'll give you guys a quick example. My dog was going crazy in my house, and I'm like, why is he going crazy? You know, stop. And he's by the front door, going crazy, going crazy, going crazy. And I didn't read him. I woke up the next morning, sure enough, my car got broken into, and my dog knew it. And so, you know, those are the little things. Like if you hear a trash can getting moved, you're like, it's Tuesday, trash day is Thursday. Why is somebody moving a trash can? You know what I mean? So those are the things, like if they have to do those type of things to get to a second window, it's just you. If you respond to those sounds, and those things are the ones that are gonna get you.
Thank you. And I think Nina White posted something on chat that I wanted to certainly share with our guests and to thank everyone for their involvement. Thank you all for your participation and taking time out of your busy schedules and busy personal lives to come be a part of this. And certainly thank you to everybody who showed up today. This is a fantastic.
You know, one of the, both, each, whether it's the lieutenant or the fire chief or the fire marshal, that I meet with them periodically, quarterly, almost, if not even sooner, depending on incidents such as what happened this week. But I can get information and I get the reports, and I can always work with the board and to get information out about what's our stats, what are the things that are happening, and get that information now. We also, time limiting, you know, our officers do come to neighborhood association meetings, and we do have, like our fire marshal. I do want to thank our fire department and our police department, because one of the biggest efforts we made this year was going after illegal fireworks, and you know, which has been also a big fire issue for many years. But it's been because we've been working with the neighborhood associations. Our fire and our police department and our other departments will come and work with our neighborhood associations on specific issues. So all I'll say is reach out to us. Cassandra here in my office is there. I'm easy to get a hold of too. So you know, and we can keep you posted. So it's not like a once every other 2 years. I know for COVID it's been a while, but definitely want to be available for anyone who has any question.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm going to,
Our guest did bring a lot of literature.
Yeah, that's all your guys.
I'm going to end the Zoom meeting.